So with an election on the cards and with interest rate policy so uncertain, Australia is really teetering on the brink right now, I'd say.
Firstly, can you tell us where the economy is at right now?
Yeah, well, it's precariously poised, you'd have to say. Economic growth for the first quarter was at 0.1%. But on a per capita basis, we are in recession and have been for five quarters or more. So without immigration, we would definitely be in a recession here. Unemployment's rising, heading over 4%. Inflation is persistent. So we have very much a two-speed economy. It's fine for self-funded boomer retirees who are living off term deposits because interest rates are going up. But if you're an average income earner in Australia and the average income is $98,000 per year, the average mortgage this week hit a record high of $620,000. So that would require $45,000 per year to service that mortgage. So if you're a single income family living on the average wage of $98,000 a year, you're doing it tough. House prices keep rising. They're defying interest rates, and rents keep rising. They've hit record highs. So it's very delicately balanced at the moment, and a lot of people are doing it very tough.
So how's political partisanship affecting that?
Well, I was actually inspired by my colleague Brent Edwards, who wrote about this last week in his column, talking about political partisanship in New Zealand. I mean, here our parties are so diametrically opposed. You can't guarantee that if there was a change of government, that the other party would continue with the same economic policy. So, and that's creating a lot of instability and policy risk is a word that you're hearing a lot from investors and from business people. The parties seem intent on culture wars rather than really addressing the economic issues. So policy risk is highly elevated. It's not what we need in the current environment. And essentially, the main split is on climate policy, with the Labor government subsidising the carbon transition, whereas the coalition would pull out of the Paris Accords, scrap targets, plus they want nuclear energy in Australia. So they would invest public money in nuclear energy. And if they did that, then all the money that's going into the climate transition would evaporate. And it's already uncertain. And the coalition are a good chance to win government if we have an election next time. So meanwhile, the government's spending $23 billion on a Future Made in Australia program, but each of these policies could easily be scrapped if the other party gets into power.
Mm. And you mentioned that both sides have history. What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, there's absolutely no consistency. I mean, at one time you could say that the coalition led by the Liberal Party were a neoliberal party of free enterprise and pushing the free markets. But you see what they've done is they want to spend billions of dollars of taxpayer funds on nuclear plants, which wouldn't be funded if it was open to the market. That money wouldn't be there from the market. They also want to push divestment of assets from the supermarket duopoly. It's a very populist measure, but very light on detail, and something which could very much backfire in a wider economic sense. And previously, the coalition committed to spending taxpayer money on this Snowy 2.0 pumped hydro development in the Snowy Mountains, where the cost has blown out from $2 billion to about $16 billion. So, but Labor, they're not blameless either. When they were in power about 10 years ago, they greenlit the East Coast coal seam gas projects without any kind of domestic gas reservation at all. And the result is that while Australia is one of the largest gas exporters in the world, there's a crippling shortage of gas on the eastern seaboard. Meanwhile, we're exporting all this gas offshore. So all of these policies seem politically driven on a case-by-case basis without regard to any long-term economic plan for the country.
Mm. And of course, short-term interest rate policy is crucial here as well. What's the word out of the RBA?
Well, amidst all this uncertainty, the interest rate policy is also uncertain because the RBA is torn in two directions, to cut or to hike. They have a mandate to attack inflation, and inflation is proving persistent, but they're also very mindful that if they hike rates, then that's going to cause more unemployment and probably increase the burden on mortgage payers. So that would likely tip us into a recession. The markets are tipping that there's going to be interest rate hike this year. That is why the Australian dollar keeps rising, and apparently it's going to hit 70 cents. That's the tip. So with an election on the cards and with interest rate policy so uncertain, Australia is really teetering on the brink right now, I'd say.
NBR is offering a special July-only deal, $399 for a year's subscription. So you'll be able to find me on mbr.co.nz.